guest on a podcast is maybe the most effective way to build your credibility and authority on what you know or what your company does. You can get booked as a guest on lots of podcasts, and Outlier Audio is great at helping you do just that. Outlier Audio focuses on getting entrepreneurs, investors, and business professionals booked on podcasts. Tell your brand story without the need to interrupt an audience with an ad. Be the reason they listen to the podcast. Get started with a 5-podcast booking trial to see if you like it. Find out more at outlieraudio.com/bookme. That's outlieraudio.com/bookme.
Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. It's got the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I'm Seth. I'm here with Doug from Stable Insurance. Now, don't go running.
Hello.
This is actually really cool because what Doug does is he focuses on the rideshare and the people who use their vehicles to make money. And he's a lawyer. He's done the lawyering before. We're going to get into all that. And it's just, we're not talking to a farmer's agent. There's a lot more to this than what everyone thinks when they hear insurance. So, hey, Doug, how's it going?
Insurance? It's good. It's good. Insurance is not that boring.
Doug, how's it going?
It's good. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
So, Doug, how'd you get started? I mean, I see you went to a small college out in Iowa.
That's
and
right.
And then it looks like you turned around and said, I need a bigger school. And you went to Seton Hall Law School.
I did. Yeah. So I slowly made the journey out east. Grew up in Iowa. Went to school
that
out there.
explains why you went to school
Yeah.
there.
Still have family out there. They have a family farm and they do a lot of Midwestern type things out there. But yeah, grew up on a farm, small town, went to small liberal arts school, ended up living in Chicago for a bit, then DC,
Oh, wow.
and then finally went to law school in New Jersey at Seton Hall. And then practiced for a few years for a company called Mercer, which is it's an insurance company, and did contract data security, some IP stuff for them. Living in New York at the time, I feel like even if you're an attorney, I think the only people that can get away with not having a second job is probably billionaires in New York. So I was looking for other things to do. And a friend and I, we used Uber almost from the start in 2011 when they came into the city. So we knew a lot of drivers. We had started talking to some of the fleets that operated in the space. We just thought that was a good idea from like a purely ROI perspective. And we thought it was going to be easy. Buy a vehicle, put it on the Uber and Lyft
Everyone
network,
always
get licensed,
thinks
insured,
this stuff's easy.
Rent it out. You always think it's going to be easy. It was not. It was awful. I have so many stories of picking up vehicles from Connecticut, from different places in New York that would get abandoned or just left or people wouldn't pay. And so whole time, like the guy that I started with, we were thinking about how can we kind of make this process a little bit easier for us. And so we tried doing some digital onboarding with drivers. We tried to handle different maintenance requests, things like that, just to lower the amount of work that we were putting in. But then one of the things we did early on was Uber started making some of their data available if you had a business case as to why you wanted to use it. And so we're like, oh, this is interesting. Can we see if we can start to determine if we actually want to rent out to some of these drivers?
Oh, I get it. You were renting cars to people who wanted Uber or Lyft or whatever, but didn't want to use their car.
So New York is interesting in that a lot of immigrants will come in and they want to, like one of the things they typically do is drive cabs or work now in the rideshare space, let alone the cost of the car, right? You could get a car, parking, all of those things, but to license it, to get insured is actually quite an expensive process because of the regulatory, the Taxi Limousine Commission in New York. And
I'm sure it's a racket,
Yeah. So a lot of people
I said
will
it,
rent.
Not you. It's your saying.
I'm being very careful, very careful. I love the TLC. So a lot of people rent cars. So that's what we were doing. We're just renting out to individuals. And we wanted to try to determine, is this person going to pay us? Because we had a lot of people not paying and abandoning vehicles. And so we started using the data from Uber just to make that determination. Like, do we see they're driving enough, they're earning enough, things like that. But what we realized was there was also a lot of interesting loss or insurance related data that we could start pulling out. So like their driver safety score, their crowdsource score, things like that. And so we went to our insurance company at the time and said, hey, we think we have this interesting process of collecting this data and making it available from an underwriting perspective. If we gave this to you, would you give us some type of discount or a better rate? But by the way, we were also putting like telematics in the cars. So we were
Yeah.
we had dash cams in the cars, a lot of loss control measures we were putting in at our cost.
You were trying your darndest not to lose the damn car.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So not lose the car, not get in an accident. If we got in an accident, make sure, we didn't have to pay for that accident. So the insurance company, really good people. We actually did a partnership with them as a digital broker in the future. But at that time, they're like, we have no way to collect this data. And even if we could collect it from you, we have no way to actually apply it to our underwriting models. So that kind of like in my head, I was like, I wonder, obviously we can't be the only company, this only small fleet having this problem. Individual drivers are having this problem. Fleets are having this problem. You really could get away from the problem if you got large enough and could build your own captive and essentially own the insurance company, which 9 times out of 10 is not what is happening with these customers. That's where Stable was born out of. We realized
That's
that
cool. Out of data.
Yeah, out of data, but just realizing like mobility was moving forward very quickly. The new types of things that were happening, hybrid uses of vehicles, delivery blew up with the pandemic, things like that, shared ownership. And insurance was not catching up as quickly. And so that was the genesis of Stable, really trying to solve our own problem that we had as a fleet.
We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
Support for Entrepreneurs Enigma and all the shows in the Marketing Podcast Network is provided by Storyblock. There's no better way to future-proof your business than to switch to a headless content management system. This means one place to update all your digital content. 82% of those who have switched to headless, like Storyblock, report better productivity, efficiency, and revenue. Sign up for a free account to test and see for yourself at storyblock.com/enigma. It's Storyblock without the C, .com/enigma.
It's kind of like the classic startup thing. It's like scratching your own itch and really figuring out, all right, we need this. Someone else has got to need this. And then, so fast forward a little bit further. And so so Stable started? How did that get started? I mean, you had this fleet of cars. What happened next?
Yeah, so we actually, I went and found my one of the people I worked with in Chicago, also went to school in the Midwest. Him and I had stayed in touch for like 15 years, a gentleman named Stephen Decker. Him and I convinced him to quit his job and focus on Stable full time.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it is. Yes. He still reminds me of that. And I think we had said, we'll give ourselves a year. We'll see if we can convince a insurance company to partner with us. And then a year went by. We're like, well, maybe we should give ourselves another 6 months because insurance is very difficult. And then about 2 years in, we had collected a nice group of advisors, and we were building a little bit of interest in the community. But still, I think we had 3 huge things working against us. We were originally focused in New York, and just insuring in New York is very difficult.
New York in general is always working against you.
Any business. I mean, there's obviously a lot of startups there, but like if you're actually trying to sell to a New York citizen, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. So working in commercial auto, which is also, I don't know how much your audience knows about commercial auto. It hasn't been performing well from an insurance perspective for the last 30 years or so. And then also rideshare and livery, just this kind of new concept, not a lot of data on it. So really, I think we went with the most difficult option to start with and not realizing how difficult it was. But over time had built up this group of advisors. One of our advisors who was in the insurance space, a gentleman named John Salvucci, he decided he wanted to come on full-time as a co-founder. We weren't going to tell him no. Great guy, smart guy in the insurance space. And with that, we were actually able to kind of close our first deal as a digital broker in New York. And so we didn't write the product. We had to go to them to do all this stuff with the product.
Oh, so you brought it in and said, Daddy, can you please sign off on my permission slip pretty much?
Exactly. Yeah. So it looked to the customer, most of the time it looked like it was automated. There was days though where Steven and I were up for 24 hours, like actually taking everything that came into our system and then like inputting it into their system.
Oh, God.
We started using, so that was a GUI, like a GUI rater, right? A graphical user interface rater. We started using Puppeteer to try and see if we could actually like automate some of those. It broke a lot. So it never actually went into production, but yeah, so learned a lot, great experience, but we knew that was not a scalable model. And also we just had no control over the products. We had all these ideas about how the data should be used and the features that should actually come along with the insurance. And we knew it was going to be a long road to convince that
Yeah.
carrier to allow us to do that. So we regrouped after COVID and said, okay, now we are really giving ourselves one more year. And if
We mean
can-
it this time.
we mean it this time. Yeah. So there's a few more people. We're like, okay, it's not just me and Steven anymore. We don't want to drag everybody down with us. So we will give ourselves one more year. We'll go out to the reinsurance market and say, hey, we want to become what's known as a managing general agent, which just means like we have control of the underwriting and the product and the claims. And you, carrier or reinsurer, you just agree that we're right on this and you want to see how it develops.
I love it.
Yeah. And we were able to do that. We work with a
great.
great insurance company now called ILS Capital Management. They're Bermudian based and have an office here in Connecticut. And they have licensed paper for us to go out and write in the US. And so, yeah, we're launching our very own first product finally after about a year of work.
You heard it here
Yeah.
first, folks.
You did.
No.
Yes. Yes. So
Maybe
that's
not
coming
first,
out.
but-
Well, I think so. I think we've said it's coming, but not when. And so that's coming out in June in Illinois for rideshare drivers. And yeah, we have a lot of other things kind of in the hopper around
That's exciting.
rideshare for fleets, car share for fleets, which is car share is like really, really interesting right now. This whole
Yeah.
concept of distributed fleets, and not a concept we came up with. One of a guy that used to work at Uber is kind of working in the car share space now. He's kind of come up with this idea of distributed fleets, this idea of
Oh, wow.
you go to an airport, say you go to
That makes
Newark, and instead of going to this centralized parking lot where all of these cars are, you actually have somebody deliver a car to you that you're going to rent. Yeah, and so those are like, they're called power users on Turo and Get Around, but it's really just it's people like me who had this fleet, right? They're trying to generate a little bit of income on the side, or they get large enough and they do it full time. It's really interesting that those models for small businesses are popping up that didn't exist 5 years ago.
The internet evolved so fast that the technology literally wasn't there back then.
Mhm.
Like the ideas were just starting. And people are like, well, why did we have to do Uber? Well, you had to. Uber is a cog that needed to happen. Lyft had to happen. Uber had to happen. All these Philly car share had to happen. Everyone had to start somewhere,
Right.
and you build upon it. And then here comes stable insurance. And it's the thing about the entrepreneur experience is you have to go in and hit it at the right time.
Right.
So here's a question for you. I'm gonna ask you both sides of the coin here. What's the scariest thing about being an entrepreneur for you?
Yeah, well, so I'm lucky in that my wife, she works for Accenture. She's compensated well for working for Accenture, but even then, we were living in Brooklyn for the longest time as me being unemployed or employed by a company that couldn't pay me a salary.
Underemployed.
The underemployed, yeah. I mean, that was scary, and it took. I think like I said, we kind of set these time frames up for ourselves, and we're like, well, we just need another 6 months, and then another 6 months, and so that fear is still around. Like now that we're funded, like we know, the money goes away at some point if you don't earn revenue, if you don't have profits to actually
Unless you're
like, pay
Amazon.
yourselves, unless you're Amazon or a few other companies I can think of, yeah. Yeah, so I think that fear is there, but it's kind of like pushed out. Like, okay, I don't have to deal with that for maybe another 12 months. And then I should start thinking about it again. But I would say just in the last 6 months, like the alleviation of that fear has kind of taken place. But it was real and present and something that we
I'm
talked
sure.
about internally and with our families and stuff like that for a very long time.
And everyone points to Doug saying it's Doug's fault. Doug brought me into this.
Right. Right.
It's Doug.
Right.
So here's what's the
Right,
best thing
right.
about being an entrepreneur?
So I used to work in a corporation, right? I worked for a great company, great team that I worked with. But I think the working for a corporation, it's great for some people. Some people like to be told exactly, like, yeah, I'm going to show up. I'm going to, kind of do most of my work. I'm going to leave a little for tomorrow, so I feel like I have job security. But I know I'm going to do that this year, next year, until the day I die, if I want, if
Yeah.
I kind of continue to perform. And that was actually more scary to me than like the fear of
Yeah.
losing and having no money. Just like that's the end of my life.
Yeah.
And
And not
having-
living it. Yeah.
not living it. Yeah. So taking that away, and now the last 4 years we've been working on this, I think like the fulfillment that we've had, like as a team, and like being able to hire other people that see that, other people that have kind of moved out of the corporate shackles as well, like seeing their faces light up and how happy they are. We've got a great guy that started recently that didn't work for a big company, but definitely had more of like a corporate structure. And he's just like, he's so happy to be working with us. Yeah. And not because of us, but just, I think like the fact that he has so much freedom and ownership over what he's doing now. So that, to me, that's the best thing. I feel like I'm unemployable at this point. I don't know how
Welcome
I
to
would
my
go back.
life. 14 years doing digital marketing. No one's going to hire me.
Right. So I would be a terrible employee. And yeah, so I guess I have to think about that if things kind of do go south at some point. But yeah, that's, for now, it's a great thing. It's a great thing.
Exactly. What is the most important thing to carry with you all the time besides your car keys?
Besides my car keys. So right now, I have two great small kids, 4 and 2, and not a literal picture, but you have to travel a lot. We go to a lot of different conferences, and we're actually, we're launching a national product, so we're in those markets quite often. So I think just being able to kind of think about them while I'm out, and now FaceTime's great. You can see your kids whenever if you can't give them a hug, but yeah, so I kind of like right now is probably what I think about mostly when I'm not thinking about stable or things that we're working on, especially when I'm traveling. Yeah. So
it's tough when you travel because, you can't give them the hug or they can't get a hug from you when they want the hug. It's tough.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. So Doug, let's say there's some people on the show who want to reach out to you, want to learn more about stable insurance. How can they find you?
Sure. So you can go to our website. It's stable, INS, short for insurance, first 3 letters of insurance.com. Stable was taken. Stable.com was taken. So we can't afford
short
that
ones
yet.
like that.
Yeah, stable INS. They are, yeah. Or they're really expensive. We're on Twitter. If you search LinkedIn for stable insurance, we'll pop right up. I have a very distinctive name. So Douglas, last name VER, space MULM. You will find me very easily. Yeah. LinkedIn, we're all over that right now. And yeah, we're trying to get a little bit more active in the social media space, which is probably how you came across us as well.
Yes, I found you guys, very active in the space, and and then you just got your seed round, which is congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I'm sure everyone, family and friends and coworkers are all very much relieved that there's some money in the company now.
Everybody can get paid for a while. Yes, that is a nice thing.
So, Doug, thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll see everyone next week.
Thanks, Seth.
That was a great show. Hey, if you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please give us a review on the podcast directory of your choice. We're on all of them. And these reviews really help others find the show. Also, if you're getting value from the show and want to buy me a coffee, go to the show notes and click on the link to help me stay awake while I bring you more great episodes to your ears. That's in the show notes, and I look forward to the next episode. Take care, guys.
Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Sarah Panus, and if you work in the content marketing space, I invite you to subscribe to the Marketing with Empathy podcast. Join me and other industry experts as we share ideas to help you connect with your audience to drive better business results. I've spent the last 20 years driving content for billion-dollar brands. Now I help marketers build winning brand storytelling strategies to reduce feelings of overwhelm and confusion. Think of it as a content marketing jam session mixed with chicken soup for the soul. Subscribe to Marketing with Empathy today.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.